What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, News Director Brian Houseworth, John Marsh, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you.
Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full.
That's weird. I've never heard, in effect, a prosecutor or a special counsel tell the general public, you should read this thing. Like he's promoting it. And I am reading this thing, and I'll tell you my initial impression, and I'm not kidding. Like, seriously, and we'll share some of this with you. I feel like I'm reading an op-ed in the Huffington Post. I don't know if you're familiar with HuffPo, very uber progressive liberal publication, Huffington Post, but it looks like that's what I'm reading. Good morning. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Your reaction yesterday. So we weren't surprised. Same thing. I don't know what's new.
Nothing's new, and I guess a lot of this, I think the reason why it's not new is a lot of it we learned in the January 6th committee investigation or whatever. And so a lot of this, the stuff about the co-conspirators and the actions and the statements, there are a couple new things, but by and large, we knew these things. They just hadn't really been charged yet. So here we go again. I saw some reflections yesterday that said, you can get indicted once or twice and it probably helps you. 3 or 4 times, it might actually start to hurt you. I don't know if I agree with that. This doesn't feel like something new or even if that Georgia indictment comes through, that I guess that would be technically number 4. I guess we don't count the superseding one as number 3. This is technically number 3. That was like 3.5 or 2.5 maybe. I'm over it.
So seriously, I'm thinking about it like this. I'm thinking, I don't know, a 35-year-old dude or woman, it doesn't matter, and they're starting to come into their political wherewithal. They're starting to understand things and going, okay, I see how when Joe Biden is president, I see how it is negatively impacting me and my family, and not only me and my family right now, but it's impacting our future. And so somebody 35 years old starting to come in line with that, and they're looking at choices, and Trump is a choice. Do they go, oh, well, he's accused of, and by the way, he is not responsible for what happened on January 6th. There are a lot of things that you can say about Trump. I just do not hold at all. It would be like me right now telling Brian Houseworth, Brian, run down to the Quick Mart, go steal me a pack of Marlboro Reds. If you got caught stealing the Marlboro Reds, who's getting busted?
It would be me.
How much trouble am I getting into? None. Exactly, and that's my take on that.
And the former president would argue that he actually said, and they played it during the hearings, have a peaceful march, But Smith, it's just, again, we'll see what happens. For people who support the former president, it doesn't change the needle. Mm-mm. They're still going to support him. For people that didn't like him, they're going to continue not to like him.
I mean, one thing that I think was new yesterday was it didn't name the co-conspirators, but it kind of outlined their bios, and 4 of the 6 are actually attorneys, and that's kind of Trump's new line. He said, well, I was listening to my attorneys. So whether or not these other co-conspirators will actually get charged as well, and who they are, there's a lot of speculation around that. But I was kind of taking some offense yesterday, like it's all the attorney's fault.
So 35-year-old voters starting to come into their political wherewithal, and they're going, my bank account and my future and my kids' college funds, maybe I can send them to college. I'm not sure, since the tragic events of January the 20th. Of 2021. Are they looking at, well, January 6th, I'm not voting for this guy because of that, because he's been indicted numerous times? Maybe. I don't know. Again, we go back to, it's the economy, stupid. It's my money. I'm just trying to think of somebody 35 years old starting to get involved in politics. They see the negative impacts of a Democrat president. And they're going, okay, Trump's got all this stuff, but you know what? Way better for America, way better for America's security, way better for the rest of the world, and frankly, way better for me and my family's future.
Well, and it's so bizarre, and people hate Trump so much that they can't really see the big picture. And I heard it described like this: like, imagine you were, because we watch other countries' elections, right? Imagine you were watching another country's election, okay? And the leading candidate right before the first debate suddenly is getting indicted left and right. You would be like, that seems bad and fishy and scary that, the powers are using their, weaponizing their justice system to take down the leading candidate, to take down their political opponent. I think if we saw this in any other country, everyone in the U.S. would be like, that. Those people are bad. And so it's scary. Now, because it's happening to Trump and people hate Trump so much here, we're not getting that. I think we're so in our own little bubble that everyone's just like, Trump bad. But gosh, that gave me a whole different perspective.
Former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, she joins us 7:35. Her reaction to what happened yesterday as this is coming down. I'm hanging out with Tobler, getting ready to do the Randy Tobler Show. He's here weekdays, 4 o'clock. John Marsh sitting at home, and he was eating some Cocoa Puffs in his recliner, watching the TV. And you're seeing this happen, John. How are you reacting?
Quote Eric Schmidt, the walls are closing in. No, wait, that was Hunter Biden, wasn't it?
Did you see
I
Eric?
don't know, more of the same. More of the same.
Yeah.
It seems like, let's just stack the deck a couple cards higher.
And I'll say this, too, as we're about to share some of what's actually in this indictment. Mine's getting marked up. I read it, and it reinforces for me, and I get it, I'm biased, but it really, truly, honestly reinforces. They're out to get to this guy. Remember, Jack Smith, he's also indicted Trump on the document stuff at Mar-a-Lago. This guy's job, he was hired. Somebody got onto Indeed.com and said, hey, we need a prosecutor. Your job, just go after Trump. Jack Smith, he responded. I'm that guy. That's his job. That's what he gets paid to do, in effect. We'll get Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler's thoughts at 7:35. Real quickly, weather, flash flood watches, and warnings.
We've got 2 warnings right now, actually 3, Brandon. We've got Audrain County that has been added to our list right now, and we've got warnings, and they extend to various times. Boone County's flash flood warning goes until 7:41, Osage until 6:32. The Audrain County one goes until 9, but all of our listeners right now could see some heavy rain. All of us under a flood watch right now. That includes Cole County as well. Some areas, I talked to Marshall Thaler this morning, National Weather Service in St. Louis. We won't get the official estimates because they do a 6-hour increment till after 7, then they got to calculate probably close to 8:30 when we get the numbers. But he said radar indicates 3 to 5 inches of rain in Boone in Osage counties overnight, and it rained very hard. I actually lost power this morning about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was a historic church that burned down just to our west in Pettis County as well. So that is our situation. More on the way tonight, more storms tomorrow, more storms Friday.
It rained so hard, I almost used my umbrella that I bought 3 years ago and have never used. And you know why I've never used my umbrella? Because I'm a dude, and I still have weird thoughts about dudes using umbrellas. Well, I do.
Unless you're on the golf course.
Yeah.
What?
I know. It's a weird thing. I get it. It just...
You don't see very many dudes with umbrellas now that I think about it.
Well, that's what it just feels... And
I had to.
It feels
also
effeminate to me, man. I'm sorry.
But you're also like not wearing a suit or something.
That's
like
true.
a man with like a really nice umbrella and like
Yeah, and...
You're not too concerned about your. You're not too concerned about your polo from where is this from? Kohl's.
I think it looks pretty good. Yesterday I did during the storm when I went up to
Kohl's doesn't even sell polos.
They don't? Okay.
Yes, they do.
Apparently, they sell really expensive white T-shirts.
Yeah. Yesterday I did use my umbrella yesterday because it rained very hard. I believe I was at the Boone County Sheriff's Office yesterday doing a story about the homicide in Boone County. And I believe they were actually taking the suspect from that homicide into the custody right after I walked out, but I could not see because it rained so hard. But yeah, I did use my umbrella. So just be careful on the roads.
My daughter came running in the middle of the night and was like, "What's that noise, Mommy?" It literally sounded like someone was taking a hose and like spraying the windows. It was coming so hard at the house.
It was pretty intense overnight. By the way, conservative says Trump has no chance of winning. A very well-known progressive from a national news network says Trump has a really good chance of winning. Man, the world is upside down. There is producer Hannah.
Hello.
You're at that. You don't see a lot of dudes wearing umbrellas. I don't think. Is that weird?
Well, you don't see very many people wearing umbrellas anyways.
Carry an umbrella.
But you don't see dudes carrying umbrellas. It doesn't seem
Not
like
very
a lot.
often. My gripe with umbrellas is after you use it, you have to carry around a wet umbrella.
I'm going to get a Wake Up Mid-Missouri umbrella and gift
There you
it
go.
to you.
I need an umbrella to keep me from this that's being spewed down from Jack Smith and this.
Easy.
Sorry.
What you need is the famous invention from the legendary Lou Brock of the St. Louis Cardinals. Do you know what Lou invented back in the day?
The umbrella cap.
Yep, the Brock umbrella.
Yeah. Oh God, that was so cool. It was just a hat, and the hat had an umbrella on it.
It was a baby umbrella, head size, with a hat band in the middle of it.
Now that I could see Brandon wearing.
For sure.
I would do it. Okay, this indictment. It sounds like an op-ed. I should grab an op-ed from the Huffington Post, read that, intersperse it with passages from this indictment, see if you can tell the difference. Number one, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, was 45th president of the United States, candidate for re-election 2020. The defendant lost the 2020 presidential election. I might be getting triggered, but I just don't feel like the defendant lost the 2020 presidential election. I don't feel like that's necessarily an indictment. I could be being sensitive. Despite having lost, the defendant was determined to remain in power. So, for more than 2 months, following Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, defendant spread lies. Shouldn't that be allegedly? This is an indictment. Shouldn't that say allegedly spread lies, or am I being really sensitive, Steph?
I think you're being sensitive.
All right. Then the outcome
Go
determined.
get your umbrella, Rathert.
These claims were false, and the defendant knew that they were false. But I really want to bring your attention, page 33 on this indictment. And it starts to detail, so following the election, hey, here's what we think was going on, and here's what we're going to be offering as proof to try to prove that this was going on. But on Christmas Day, there was a phone call. And apparently, Pence, and this is when things, I guess, really between the two went way south. They had never really been good. Because you look at these two, you ever see a couple, and you're like, how did those two hook up? Like, how did y'all get together? And that's what I think about Pence and Trump. Like, how did you all hook up?
An
Marsh?
arranged marriage.
Alcohol.
Yeah. How did that work out? But apparently, Pence calls Trump, says, hey, Donald, I just wanted to wish you Merry Christmas. And Donald says, hey, Merry Christmas to you, too. Hey, can you reject the electoral votes? Apparently, that's what's in this indictment. And then from there is a span from basically, that's when stuff really got heavy, starting on Christmas Day in 2020. And then moving on from there. Again, former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, 735, going to share her thoughts on that. Coming up 5 minutes from now, there are other things happening in D.C. That's why we're going to throw the daily D.C. rundown with Stephanie Bell at you.
Well, Trump actually got a big win yesterday, but it's being overshadowed by the indictment news.
By the way, in bad news for America on a financial level, too, that kind of got swept under the rug. Some of the stories we are covering for you this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
win a rematch with Joe Biden. The top line number, Mr. Biden, 43%, Mr. Trump, 43%.
That's progressive Dana Bash, CNN, saying Trump can win. And I thought that was very interesting. Now, in this one poll, for what polls are worth, this New York Times Siena polling says Joe Biden's approval rating, the current president, his approval rating is lower than the approval rating of a guy who's not president. Small victory for Trump yesterday or recently. That's what's getting us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
Yeah, yesterday was a pretty bad day for Trump, obviously, getting the indictment, although his polling numbers have gone up after the past indictment, so we'll see how that affects him. But he is playing a really smart game, and as a lawyer, I love rules, and sometimes how the rules of the game sometimes dictate whether
Go
you
figure,
can.
Hannah.
Sometimes
Stephanie's big on rules and law and order and stuff.
And really, they can dictate whether you win or lose. And Ron DeSantis doesn't appear to be paying any attention to this. And Trump is. A lot of these changes have happened in the primaries on how you get the delegates, how you're ultimately selected as the winner of the primary. And California this weekend changed their primary rules, and so they went to a winner-take-all provision. And so essentially, the person with the highest votes, I think in California you actually have to exceed 50%, which is attainable by Trump. He would get all of California's delegates. Obviously, California has a lot, and so people are saying it was a defeat for Ron DeSantis, big win for Trump. But he's actually going around and making sure, like, are these rules benefiting me? And I think working toward getting more people on winner-take-all, which right now, because he's so high in the polls, really benefits him. And I don't think everyone else is playing as smart a game on just those primary numbers as Trump is. So maybe a bad day for him, but behind the scenes, he's doing a lot of work that I think will benefit him ultimately.
That's a great point. You can go out, you can talk, you put your face out there, do the rallies. People love you no matter what candidate you are, but then some of those things that are happening behind the scenes, that's key.
And you think about those rules and how they're playing out. I mean, just getting on the debate stage, there are people who they didn't manipulate the rules, but they were playing by the rules to get on to the stage, and that they're going to be benefited by that.
Doug Burgum, how brilliant was that? Hey, you send me $1, I'm going to give you $20.
I think it was smart. I really do.
Beautiful.
Well, Trump had a good weekend in California, but yesterday, obviously, with the indictment, not a great day. Also not a great day. He drew a federal judge named Tanya Chutkin. Apparently, people are now profiling her. She has been one of the toughest on January 6th folks who have been in court. She even at sometimes, I guess, has issued punishments harsher than what the prosecutors recommended. And she also, Trump has been up against her before in court, or before her in court before in, I think, November 2021. It was when he was trying to get her to block documents requests by the January 6th committee, and she said nope. So not the best draw for him in that case. Obviously, the 4-count indictment came down yesterday. Your reaction, Brandon? Meh. Yeah, it was a lot of stuff we already knew.
Well, two things, and this Jack Smith guy, I believe in reading body language and stuff like that. This guy seemed really nervous getting up there last night. Sometimes when I do public speaking, I get really nervous too. It's not really my strong suit. So that tells me a lot. And then actually reading the language in the indictment, which Steph says I'm being a little sensitive. It just reinforced. Yeah, they're going after him, but the other thing I have to ask, can both things be true? He's done some of this stuff, and yeah, they're going after him, and they hit once in a while. You know what I mean? They're playing whack-a-mole. Once in a while, you win.
I have a theory on that.
All right. Will you share that?
Yes.
All right, we'll do that. Coming up, 6:35, and a mid-Missouri murder case, I think, is a case study for more stringent sentencing for criminals, especially as it relates to domestic violence. We'll feature that coming up 6:35 here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people
with the death of a pregnant woman in Boone County.
That's Megan Drakus, ABC 17, our news partners. This is after a guy charged with a couple of counts of murder. So right as we were on the show, doing the show yesterday morning, apparently a big scene unfolding in Boone County. Dude now charged with 2 counts of murder. Shoots and kills allegedly a pregnant woman. Shoots and kills her. And this guy, you look at his record, John, I don't know if you've checked out any of this stuff, but to me, this guy, he's like a case study in like why we need more stringent sentencing guidelines, especially when it relates to domestic violence. This dude had been in trouble before.
This guy's had just a long history. I know Brian can outline it for us, but yeah, he's a regular name and a regular player.
He's a regular in the lineup, if you will, at the Boone County Jail and probably other jails across mid-Missouri. A couple of counts of second-degree murder. That's for the unborn child and the woman that he killed. Illegal gun possession. And this guy in the past resisting arrest, felony possession of a controlled substance, DWI, stealing, burglary, couple of stints in jail. He was sentenced to 5 years probation. Probation has been revoked for the dude more than once, and he's still out walking the streets. And short of just complaining, I don't know what the proper answer is. Like, what's a proper sentencing for somebody who's involved with domestic violence crimes more than one? And the first time, and I'm guessing you talk to the family of this dead woman and the unborn grandchild, and they're going to say, way too lenient. And I get the frustration, but this guy, he had been doing these things for a while, and you read some of the details of what he did, and it makes you wonder. And again, I don't have an answer. I'm just going to sit here and whine because I don't know what else to say about it. Like, what's the proper sentencing for somebody who does this stuff? Why is this, why is this guy on the street?
Takes us back to some of the Kim Gardner cases in St. Louis where people were walking the streets and had no business being.
Well, and then I think about some of the people who are, in prison for drug crimes, and I'm thinking, let's let those guys out and make room for these guys. I mean, I would much rather see a harsher sentence on, there were people here in Columbia. We talked to some folks who were, in prison for just selling drugs. Like, these are the types of people that we need to protect our society from.
And I get, a chance for rehabilitation. And I do believe in second chances. I really do. Quit, Hannah.
I didn't say anything.
And I believe in third chances sometimes, too. And fourth chances.
Something that occurs to me is, Facebook's got my number, right? Instagram's got my number. Like, they know down to the science what I bought yesterday, what I want to buy, what my size is, what I'm thinking about buying. They know it before I even know it. And there's even been some crazy stories. And Hannah, I think you covered this, like the shop, like the ads, like Target has predicted people were pregnant or exposed people before, you get start getting the ads about being pregnant before you've told everybody. I mean, because it knows based on your purchasing history. Why aren't we providing? Have you told me that story? I feel like we covered it on the story. It sounds like a What's Hot with Hannah, but these people are good, right? Like, they know these things. Why? Certainly, if we started applying the same data science and algorithms to these folks who commit certain types of crimes at certain ages or whatever, and I'm sure we'd get in trouble for profiling people, right? But we know, I went to a criminal justice thing and they said once you're 70, you don't commit crimes anymore. You just don't, right? So we know some of these things based on data, but why aren't we spending more of our money and time in trying to use data based on our history of predicting when people are likely to really be a danger to society? And I think if they can tell me more about myself than I even know, the shopping websites, it seems like we should be able to do a better job here in predicting whether someone should be in prison or not.
Tom Cruise's Minority Report. What a remarkable movie to see some of those things in that movie that, I don't know how long the movie came out. 15 years ago. Some of those things in that movie, some of the high-tech stuff that is in play. Now it's incredible. And I want to mention this again, really quick, because we've had a lot of talk, the crime this summer, specifically in our mid-Missouri town of Columbia. They've had issues with crime. How do we do it? And I think there's progressives saying, well, let's build more parks. The city of Columbia already has 100 parks. They can't take care of them despite the fact that they have 3 different revenue streams. But they're saying, let's build more parks. This will give people something to do. Maybe this dude went and the gun that he used allegedly to kill this woman, he hid it at Again Street Park. So maybe there's something to that.
Well, and you should keep a closer eye on women in banks or something, right? We've talked about that recently. Why is it only women who embezzle? I think because it's a smarter crime, but but
I would agree with that statement.
I mean, there are things that just seem to be backed up by experience.
That's a good take on it. Yeah, women embezzle at banks, men go in and with a gun and try and hold them up.
It's because dudes need instant gratification.
That's true.
You're right.
Yeah, that is true. Coming up, we're going to have to wait till 8:10 to hear former Missouri Governor Jay Nixon. Anybody nervous?
Never.
I think it's just you.
Probably. Well, it was funny. It was last night, by the way, retirement party for Columbia Police Chief, former outgoing Columbia Police Chief Jeff Jones. Some really cool stories from that event last night. I was chatting with City Councilwoman Andrea Weiner and Don Waterman, chatting with folks like that, and heard some cool stories about folks that I normally don't. We're like oil and water, and one of them is somebody from the NAACP, Mary Ratliff, who is, in my opinion,
your buddy.
BFFs.
She was very complimentary of Jeff Jones, incredibly complimentary of the outgoing chief. 874-9390, 874-9390.
On Nixon, I'm just puzzled, I guess. I tend to agree with our friend Scott Vaughn, who said, he's a smart guy, smart in politics, knows what he's doing. I just can't get my head around why this, I don't, is he getting, maybe he's getting paid. I don't know. But I just don't understand, being a longtime Democrat and, maybe he's just really frustrated. I just don't understand what the benefit for him is now.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe, gosh, I sound like I'm being awfully kind here. Maybe it's not about him. I don't know. He's going to be here at 8:10, and maybe I am the only one. Last I was chatting with Robin Nuneker, who does a lot kind of in statewide politics, heavily involved in Mizzou, and we kind of had the same conversation. She says, well, that's, she says, I love when you guys do that stuff. She says, I may not go out and admit it to everybody, but I love when you do that stuff. He is here at 8:10. There's no label. And here's the thing with, we're right. What do we say? Everybody complains. Politics is so partisan now, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty universal. So here's some folks that are working to try to undo that, and they're getting criticized.
But are they, though?
We'll see. Chris Arps was not very complimentary of the folks yesterday here on the show. He said Jay Nixon, he's just out for making money for himself.
His law firm.
And, of course, still teaching at WashU. He's here at 8:10 this morning. Former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, 7:35, reacting to the Trump indictment. And I think bottom line on this, no big surprises reading. And if you get a chance, seriously, this indictment, it's interesting. You've been parsing through. I say it reads like an op-ed from the Huffington Post. Maybe I'm being sensitive. But your takeaways after reading it?
It was a lot of what we already knew. And even the people that they identified as co-conspirators, Twitter was like, yep, we know who these people are because they were all kind of hit.
And it's some of the familiar names, Giuliani, Sidney Powell, people like that. I thought one of the interesting things is the allegation of Christmas Day phone call. Mike Pence calling Trump, hey, Donald, Merry Christmas. Donald, Merry Christmas to you and your family. By the way, are you going to do with these electors for me? And apparently that's when on Christmas Day 2020 things started really going south.
I did some I love reading people's emails. Maybe it's the lawyer me, but and having to read lots of discovery, but seeing what people actually put in writing is interesting. And apparently this I saw this on Twitter yesterday, but a campaign advisor wrote in an email this really long part, but the last part I will read to you with a bleep in the middle, Hannah, for sure. So,
oh boy.
And it says, I'll obviously help. So this was it doesn't say who it went to, but a campaign advisor put in an email, I'll obviously hustle to help on all fronts, but it's tough to own any of this when it's all just conspiracy bleep beamed down from the mothership. And I think that's an ultimate insult. I think we should print that on a t-shirt. Conspiracy bleep beamed down from the mothership. I wonder too, mothership is in conservative circles is a term of art. When you're talking, a lot of times people talk about Fox News as the mothership. You do it a lot. I don't know if in this context, if the mothership was just Trump Inc. or if, maybe they were referencing the mothership. I don't know.
Which mothership exactly were you all referencing? And did you find any biodegradable mass on that mothership? Folks still reacting to that UFO hearing from last week, which I think is an interesting piece in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch today, and they're criticizing Josh Hawley for daring to ask some questions. I won't say it's a great piece. It made me laugh reading it.
Yeah, it did. And I've been talking to my husband a lot about it, and I'm like obsessed. I'm like, I think there are aliens. And he's like, no way. And I'm like, why? And he said, did you hear Ben Shapiro's take on the aliens? He said, if we actually had possession of an alien, like if we had captured one, or it was really, he was like, Trump would have bragged and told everybody that, and so he's like, I don't think
he would have been taking that alien to parties and stuff and putting a tie on it.
No one, he would have said, no one catches aliens like I do, or whatever. And so I thought that is a pretty good take from Shapiro.
You want to see some aliens? Go back and watch the reruns of the January 6 hearings. You'll see plenty of aliens.
One more thing before we move forward. Big downgrade for the United States credit rating. What that means actually for you. Plus, we're going to be doing the Morning Bell 825 business news. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. Basically, so one of the big defenses from Trump's camp is all this stuff as it relates to January 6th. This is a lot of freedom of speech stuff. Trump can go out and do and say whatever he wants. Democrats, repped by Jamie Raskin from Maryland, says freedom of speech ain't going to work.
You can say whatever you want, but the minute you actually try to obstruct the meeting of Congress, you crossed over from speech to conduct.
So that's what he's saying. So I could freedom of speech. I could say, hey, I'm going to murder the president of the United States of America. I have the right to say that. Now, there could be consequences. Like one of those consequences may not be here tomorrow for saying publicly.
Secret Service at the front door.
Yeah, that might be one of the consequences. But now if I actually do it, whole nother ball game, man. Coming up a few minutes from now, credit rating. What that means, you may have heard the story, but exactly what does that mean? We're going to break that down for you. Then coming up 7:10, Raven. I love Raven Harrison.
point gain. The S&P down 12. The NASDAQ closing 62 points lower.
We'll look at futures coming up 8:25. Plus, going to be doing the morning Bell business news. Little twist. Only Stephanie Bell can bring you. By the way, you may have heard the news yesterday, or probably not, because, it was all the Trump stuff, Man, there was a press conference. There was breathless coverage. Of course, and there should be. It's appropriate. Listen, a former president gets charged. It's appropriate. But under the circumstances in which they've gone after Trump for the past 8 years, you and I, we get this. But other news, and this is pretty important. Fitch downgrade, big downgrade for the United States of America when it comes to our credit rating, citing, and they're saying basically it's politics.
It is politics. I mean, that's exactly why. And it's the ripple effect of this, I think, is scary. And I want to phone my friend Aaron Headland to see exactly. I mean, we've already got high interest rates and everything else. So, but they basically said, yeah, it's an uncertain. I think it's reflecting the uncertainty that we all feel.
Yeah, that we don't know what's going on. Things are crazy. And then ultimately, so this can in turn, so it would raise interest rates on Treasury bonds, could push up rates on everything from mortgages,
gas pump.
Everything, man. Welcome to the show. It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I am Branden Rathert. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
Coming up 7:50, we're going to be doing And That Would Be All, featuring Mr. John Marsh. What do you have for us this morning at 7:50?
Well, yesterday we dealt with flatulence at RFK Jr.'s get-together in New York. We're going to stay with the theme and sort out the stinkiest place in the STL.
Stephanie, this is why you can't leave. These are the kinds of things these kids do whenever you're not here. I need your help rounding up these cats and keeping them in line.
It's all them, right? Not you at all.
Talking about flatulence on the show yesterday.
It was targeted flatulence.
It was. It was on the spot and aimed at somebody. Kind of impressed.
Both figuratively and literally.
Also coming up, Raven Harrison. If you've not checked out her website or seen her on Fox, I know, talking heads, they're a dime a dozen. I'm digging everything she does. She is here at 7:10 to share with you her take on what happened yesterday regarding Trump indictments and other stuff. I like Trump's camp said, election interference, all right. You're trying to interfere with the 2024 election, man, which is some interesting stuff. And again, I go back to timing. This month, weeks, big debate coming up, which Trump may or may not be at.
Hopefully he's there. I think this might push him over the edge to attend. I'm hoping he's there. But yeah, didn't Mike Pence come out yesterday and say, like, it's all a distraction? And I saw some pretty, man, that guy... He just can't say anything right, can't do anything right. His polling numbers are terrible. Have we heard whether he's even going to make the stage? I don't think so.
I don't think he's going to be at the big kid Thanksgiving table. He attacked Trump yesterday. DeSantis, another GOP opponent, he was actually kind of supported Trump, but then said, but I haven't read the indictment yet. So I don't know. And the indictment, by the way, and I want to remind, because you get caught up in this, because you see it in writing, you could tell me something, but if I see it in writing, it holds more water, right?
Yeah.
So people are reading, oh my gosh, do you see what's in this indictment? Again, it's all allegations.
It is all allegations. I mean, there's some, they did interviews and there are some, like quotes from emails. So, there are facts in there, but right, as far as the crimes committed, it's all allegations.
And I'm wondering, see, when you're in office, you get to do those kinds of things. Crystal Quaid, who's in the state legislature running for governor as a Democrat. She wrote a letter to Governor Mike Parson. We need a special session to talk about nuclear waste in Missouri. I think she's just trying to call out Parson. Look at what I did, trying to call him out.
Yeah.
But when you're in office, those are the kinds of things sometimes that you get to do, whether they are right or not. Those are some of the things that you do get to do. So Raven Harrison is here. Former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, she's here at 7:35. Plus, we're going to toss in a little fun. What's Hot with Hannah? We're doing that at 7:25-ish. And then, of course, former Governor Jay Nixon on that No Labels group. And they've been on the show before, and they were kind of an interesting conversation. I think they've got a sense of realness about themselves. They say they're passionate about what they're doing, but I know this. They're upsetting everybody on all sides of the political spectrum.
Oh, yeah.
So when you're doing that, if you're upsetting everybody, does that mean you're doing something right?
Indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full.
That's Jack Smith. He was hired. His job description, go after Trump. That's the only reason he was hired. He's got the indictments on the Mar-a-Lago stuff, and now the stuff from yesterday, from January the 6th. That's his job. Go after Trump. Want to bring in Raven Harrison, RavenHarrison.com. You see her on Fox all the time. Raven, you're seeing this yesterday. We knew that it was coming. But what are some of the thoughts rolling around in your head after this came down yesterday?
Well, after the initial, outrage of the, encore political theater on this, it really was just going, hey, I wonder when the indictment for Hillary claiming that the election was rigged, and she wrote a book called What Happened. And, we've got now Trump getting indicted. It literally, every time something happens on the left, Trump gets it indicted. This is the first time we got proof of Hunter Biden's laptop. Then the indictment came down in Florida first time. Now we've got this other indictment that comes right on the heels of Devin Archer testifying before Congress that he had proof that Joe Biden had perjured himself and committed treason, that he was the big guy, that he was involved in the business dealings, and which seems to be supported by the proof. I mean, it's just absolutely outrageous. And on charges, 4 new charges stemming from 2.5 years ago. Why did they not do this 2.5 years ago for the January 6th? We haven't seen the 14,000 hours of actual footage. We've had a lot of hearings and a lot of people, it was terrible. It was worse than 9/11. It was horrible. But yet we've got actual footage that shows us what happened in the Capitol. They won't release it. That's misinformation. So we're looking at the 2-tier justice system panicking right now because they are desperate to keep President Trump from running again.
Now, do you think, I saw some talk on Twitter yesterday that, the third indictment, that's when things start to, because after the first 2 indictments, Trump's polling is still pretty good. And people are starting to say, well, once you get into the third and the fourth indictment, he can't really withstand that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say statistically and strategically, that appears to be not the case. If you look at this, he's been attacked literally since 2015, since he came down the golden escalators. So if we're paying attention to his track record, after the Russian hoax and $40 million, polling numbers went up. Impeachment 1, polling numbers went up. Impeachment 2, up. Mar-a-Lago raid skyrocketed. Indictment 1, up. And so the precedent does not lean toward what the Democrats and the left are favoring in this. They are trying to throw everything at him to stop him. They're reaching back into any manner of something they can find to try to build a crime which should scare and piss off every single American, because once they're done with him, that they can literally just say, hey, Hannah, we're accusing you of this, and then just keep the justice system hammering you until they get you to break. And that is communism. That's not the America we live in.
And what should we accuse producer Hannah of? 874-9390. Good morning and welcome into the show. There is producer Hannah.
Hello.
Raven Harrison is. Good morning, Raven. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Doing great.
We're glad you're here. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Mr. Marsh is here.
Yes, sir.
My name is Branden Rathert. If something we can do for you, 874-9390. 874-9390. I want to ask you this about Trump, because here's the thing. I carried the torch for Trump in 2015, and I paid for it dearly here on the show. People, you got a Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz supported him in.
Have I ever told you?
Have I ever told you the story about 2015? But I have to be honest with myself. And I think it's reasonable, and I'm asking you this kind of a personal question. Do you stop and think, okay, all this stuff, and we know it is a fact. They have relentlessly gone after Trump. It is incredibly frustrating. I mean, that's a real frustration. It's not anger. It's almost like hurt, sorrow. But do you ever wonder, okay, but could both things be true? Yeah, they're going after Trump, but maybe this time the walls are closing in. Maybe this time they have him. Do you ever consider that?
Well, I don't, only because they have really corrupted any integrity this justice system would have with the way it's been applied. I mean, if you look back, Alvin Bragg literally campaigned on communism. He did not campaign to lower taxes, lower crime, make New Yorkers safer. He campaigned on going after a citizen. He said, I'm going to get Trump. That's what he campaigned on. That is communism. It means that regardless of whether he was innocent or guilty, their platform was to get this guy, take him down, which means they're taking your choice. That means they're deciding who they will allow to run for government, who is acceptable choice for them to play this political game. And once Donald Trump said, I'm not for sale, they can't buy him. And if they can't buy him, then they want to destroy him. And that's what it just dismisses any credibility they have with all of these charges. They're going 7 years. They went for the first indictment 7 years back to a Stormy Daniels to find a crime. I mean, you're in New York. If you're looking for crime, Alvin Bragg, all you have to do is look out any window in any direction of the office you're sitting in right now to find it. So people are literally getting mugged on the street outside where he is. We have migrants sleeping out there that have been let in across the southern border, and you're on a 7-year-old possibly campaign violation that you're trying to build into a felony. The American people are sick of it.
That's what I'm thinking. A 35-year-old voter coming into their political acumen and going, okay, do I care about this stuff from several years ago, or do I care about how over the past couple of years my family's life has in effect been ruined financially, the future of my children and their college now imperiled because of this guy in the White House. 35-year-old driving to work at 7:15, listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I'm wondering kind of what weighs more heavily on their mind. That I don't know. Raven Harrison, RavenHarrison.com, joining us this morning on the show.
Raven, the tough question out there, and we hear it on the talking heads. 1, will Donald Trump be convicted? 2, will he serve time in prison?
Well, that's the question. And, if I'm looking in my crystal ball, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And I would say absolutely not. I think he's going to be the nominee because if they had these cases, if they had the facts to support them, it doesn't take 2.5 years after January 6th to put some kind of sealed indictment. And all of a sudden you're finding out all this new, information. It doesn't ring true. It doesn't pass the smell test. Meanwhile, you literally have the White House imploding. I mean, we found coke in the White House. We don't know whose blow it is. And we have, Joe Biden literally, there's proof that, he has perjured himself, that he, at the very least, and possibly committed treason. And we are still searching, okay, let's talk about January 6th when people are getting crippled with kitchen table issues, the economy, inflation, high gas, the border's wide open. We have, violence everywhere, and we're not dealing with that. Instead, we're doing a deflection. And my favorite, with all these kitchen table issues and everything going on, what's Joe Biden? We got UFOs, guys. That's where they are.
I like talking.
Can't retire. That's okay, but we got ET issues here, guys. Doesn't matter whether your 401k is tanking or we have a wide open border. We got UFOs here.
I like talking about UFOs personally. Now, you have actually been a candidate, been out on the campaign trail, have experience running in federal elections. I want to know your opinion about Ron DeSantis because he got rid of a bunch of people, his staff, and he said he was going to rework things. But people are still saying, well, he's, on a slide, he's in a slump. What are your thoughts on his campaign? Would you, as a former candidate, could you offer him any advice, candidate to candidate?
Well, I mean, definitely it's a little bit of a step up for where he is to where I ran. But what I would say is I think DeSantis did a fabulous job of running Florida. However, what I do feel is when candidates step into this presidential ring, the people that surround them stop being the ones who will tell you the truth, and start becoming the ones that just start seeing the dollar signs. I think that it is not possible right now for DeSantis to put this train back on the tracks once it's derailed. The strategy of coming out, of comparing yourself to Trump and then attacking Trump was horrible. And I said that from the beginning. What I would say now is just if he's positioning himself to be heir apparent, I don't think the water under the bridge between him and Trump is passable. It's not even legally overcomable because I don't think you can have two candidates from the same state on the same ticket. But what I will say is that I do believe, he's strong and what he was doing for Florida. He has a strong future in it, just not in this presidential race. I would say to focus that energy on building the momentum you're going to need, because even after the Trump era, our country's not in good shape. We've got to put a lot of things back together.
Off the text, 874-9390, Doug says DeSantis is too damn whiny. Didn't we just highlight this yesterday, Hannah, here on the show?
We did.
And I like DeSantis. I really liked his chances. I like the guy, but he's stumbled out of the gate so far. I've been way wrong on that. Neil says, here's what we could do to charge Hannah. Raven Harrison, our guest, ravenharrison.com. You see her on Fox. She homeschools her children. She's run for Congress. She is sharp. Love Raven Harrison. She talked about, hey, Hannah could be indicted next after the president. Neil says, how about this? This is what we indict Hannah for. False information on the internet. I love that.
Ouch, Neil. Ouch.
And then Sean said, a very good question. If Trump wins the next election, let's see how well the Democrats accept their loss. I think that would be kind of an interesting take. Raven Harrison, go to her website, see who it is that we're talking to, learn more about her. Loving Raven Harrison, ravenharrison.com. Anything else that you would like to add before we let you go?
Just to tell people that this is not an R versus a D situation. This is what the founding fathers were talking about being vigilant and staying in. The politicians who created these problems are not going to fix it. We have to be engaged, and we got to move forward. This is what we the people means. It means got to get off the sofa, stop screaming at the radio, and get out there and be part of the solution.
Raven Harrison, we love you. See you next time.
See you. Get in.
All right, another group trying to do some stuff, No Labels, and now involved with No Labels. And this is the group that says, hey, we don't want Trump, we don't want Biden, we want somebody else. Our former governor, Jay Nixon, now involved with No Labels. Jay Nixon, former governor, he is going to be here at 8:10. Let your friends know he's going to be here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up 7:25-ish, we're doing What's Hot with Hannah.
What's got officials in Pennsylvania asking, who put that there?
Who put that there? Who moved my cheese? That's Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:25.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Officials in Pennsylvania are asking a lot of questions right now, and a lot of those questions are along the lines of, how did that get here, and who put that there? And it's because of something that some kayakers spotted on one of the rivers in Pennsylvania while they were out for a little kayak stroll. And it was a 4-foot-long alligator. These kayakers watched it go from the little beach on the river into the water, and they lost track of it.
In Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania.
Alligators typically don't reside in that zip code.
Typically, no. Officials are having a hard time locating the alligator because that's probably not something that should be just chilling on a river in Pennsylvania.
Who put that there? Where'd it go?
Yeah, who put that there? I guess they're having issues with folks calling in the gator sightings hours after it's happened. So they're trying to nicely say, hey, that's not very helpful. You know how far a gator can travel in 3 hours? So they're on high alert in Pennsylvania, trying to find this 4-foot-long alligator before it gets hungry, I guess. I don't know.
I wonder how it was something that let go, or did it pack its bags and leave Boca Raton, Florida, and say, you know what? Pennsylvania's lovely this time, but
Uh-oh.
Climate change.
Could be.
It's an alligator. Is it bad that I thought when you said who put that there, I thought you were talking about Malibu and not Pennsylvania? Did you see this? They found a lifeguard spotted a barrel and there was a dead body inside of it.
Yeah.
See, when you said Malibu, I was thinking rum.
Same.
So I didn't.
No.
I didn't know.
They're like, you're just lifeguarding. You see this barrel. You're like, what's up? And then, man, that's great.
Same premise applies. What we're covering in What's Hot with Hannah this morning. Who put that there? Who put that? Who put the body in the barrel?
That's the question today in Malibu.
Like, can you imagine either going out for a kayak trip or just showing up for work as a lifeguard and seeing something just totally bizarre and out of place?
It happened a couple years ago in Jefferson City. Might have been 5 or 10 years ago, but someone's pet alligator got loose.
Yeah.
And someone came out to unlock their car, and the alligator comes out from under, and somebody in Jefferson City is like, who put that there? What happened here?
Can you imagine
Yeah.
Can you imagine in the Midwest, like a gator just runs at you from under your car?
It's a true story.
A buck, like in November, I would understand that. But an alligator in Jefferson City, remember that? What? How many of those details of that story do you recall, John?
Gosh, I remember it was, I think, obviously animal control got called. And like Steph said, it was underneath somebody's car. And they called it in and said, yeah, you guys need to come get this alligator from under my car. And they're like, yeah, right.
2009, there's a picture of it. Alligator found under car in Jefferson City.
Well, just this year, too, we had those deer in Jefferson City that ended up on the roof of a business. They basically climbed a ladder, didn't they?
Yeah. You ever seen a dead armadillo on the side of the road?
Yeah.
There was a time they weren't here in Missouri, but you know what happened? Climate change.
Their little legs are putting in some work.
This might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it because somebody posed it to me.
Please do.
Well, last night I was at the retirement party for Columbia Police Chief Jeff Jones. It was really cool.
That's how you know you're getting old is when you attend retirement parties.
Hey, Jeff. Good to see you. Mine will be next. Yeah. But somebody said last time we were talking about armadillos. I don't know how we got from Chief Jeff Jones's retirement to armadillos, but somebody asked the question, have you ever seen a live armadillo in Missouri? See dead ones all the Remember that? Mitch McConnell, 7 years ago, 2016. He's given a speech in Kentucky. Then President Obama, you had Antonin Scalia, who had died, and Obama, well, I'm going to make a pick. And Mitch McConnell said, no, you're not. Does anybody remember who that pick was going to be? Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland, after Joe becomes president, Joe's like, hey, man, I'm really sorry what Republicans did to you, but how about this? We bring you on, and then you put a job posting on Indeed.com, and the job description is, we just need an attorney to go after Trump. That's your full-time job. Jack Smith, he's online, and he fills out the application. He sends it in, and Merrick Garland's like, yep, I got my guy, and that's how Jack Smith makes a living. And he tried to cash in yesterday with the indictment yesterday of another indictment. Jack Smith's already indicted the guy in the Mar-a-Lago stuff. And I wonder, and maybe I'm stretching, but I'll ask former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, who we welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri right now. I wonder, because I get the feeling Merrick Garland still soils himself at the idea of not ever getting on the Supreme Court. And I'm wondering, I might be stretching, and I'll fess up to it if I am, but I wonder if this is still just retribution on the part of Merrick Garland because he's so angry. You think I'm stretching, Ms. Hartzler?
Well, I think we're very thankful that Mitch McConnell blocked him from being on the Supreme Court. Can you imagine if he was appointed there for life? He's horrendous partisan and bringing in an unlevel of unfairness and unprofessionalism in the FBI and the Justice Department that is reverberating in multiple areas. And it's going to have huge ramifications all across our country in multiple ways. And we've got to clean house and get rid of him. But, yeah, he is definitely partisan. He's going after the president in many ways. And the American people are fed up with it. And, yesterday's indictment just it's heartbreaking as an American to see our country go through this. But it's infuriating, too, that you feel this level of unfairness is going on. And I'm not saying that, Trump should be reelected as president. I think we have many, many good Republican choices, and Republicans should pick somebody who's the best for the job and qualified. But there is all of this that's clear to the American people that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are part of a crime family that is carrying on this huge injustice and doing things against the law clearly. And you have the Department of Justice covering for them with Merrick Garland at the head, time and time again, interfering with any attempt to try to bring them to justice or bring things to light. And then you see them going after, President Trump at the same time, who is the number one rival of Biden. And America just senses this is unfair and this is wrong. So I hope this will all get worked out and that we will choose our presidential candidates based on their merits and not because we feel sorry for them, but that also that this injustice will stop. And whoever does get elected next year, hopefully it'll be a Republican, will clean house and bring respect and trust back to our governmental entities that have a huge role in our lives of protecting us.
And the other thing I wonder, somebody driving to work here at 7:40 in the morning, listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, let's say they're 35 years old, they've been starting to pay attention to politics over the past few years, and if they're thinking, okay, now when I vote next year, am I not voting for this guy because of all the stuff and the tweets? Or am I not voting for this guy because now that I'm 35 years old and I have a family and I'm starting to pay attention to our bank account and our retirement and our college fund for the kids, and it's been ruined since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. I wonder what a 35-year-old, somebody just coming into their political wherewithal, what they're thinking this morning. Welcome into the show. It is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. There's Stephanie Pell.
Good morning.
Mr. Brian Houseworth is here.
It's good to see you, sir.
There's Marsh.
Yes, sir.
There's producer Hannah.
Hello.
874-9390. We were talking about armadillos a few minutes ago. Have you ever seen a live armadillo? Guess what people are texting about this morning? Armadillos.
Live armadillos.
I definitely can.
All right.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I hit one time.
Yeah. Well, we've never seen a live armadillo.
What's that sound like exactly?
Oh, terrible.
Can you give us an idea?
It sounded like artillery shells were being fired off under my car.
Oh.
I woke everybody up at the Capitol Plaza Hotel in Jefferson City when I hit that thing. It was in 2020. National Guard was staying there. So, yeah, it was very embarrassing.
Ms. Hartzler, I'm sorry that we're wasting your time with this stuff.
No, this is a good discussion. I've often wondered that myself. You never see them live, but yeah, they're everywhere along the road.
All right.
Absolutely.
Vicky Hartzler, former Congresswoman, used to rep the 4th District, now being repped by Mark Olford, joining us this morning here on the show.
There was a big hearing last week in Congress on transgender sports, and I know that was a big issue that you focused on in your campaign. Have you been paying attention to that, and you think it's an issue the state to deal with, or you think the feds are going to do something?
Oh, yes, that hearing was absolutely heartbreaking. You had a former teammate of Leah Thomas who testified that she was forced to change in the locker room, change her clothes over 18 times a week in front of a guy who has total male genitalia, and when complained about it, they said, you're the problem and you can't complain, and sent her to different sessions to try to talk through and to talk her into believing that this is okay. And she shared her personal story that she'd been sexually abused earlier in life, and that being forced to do this, actually, she felt so violated. It was just absolutely heartbreaking, infuriating. They also had a young lady who had gone through transitioning to become a male, and then is now transitioning, and realized that was a huge mistake, and her testimony was just heartbreaking as well. She said, begging Congress to stop it. She said, I've already been victimized by this barbaric pseudoscience. Please, this final warning, stop it, and protect children. So I'm glad that the Republican Congress, is having these hearings and these discussions and bringing this to light. And I'm proud of the Missouri legislature for taking steps this session to pass a law saying this is going to stop in Missouri, that we're not going to allow our children to undergo these procedures, these life-changing, body-altering procedures. And also, our tax dollars through Medicaid aren't going to be paying for it anymore. And so I'm proud of our states who are stepping forward. There's Missouri plus 16 other states have. And then at the federal level, them taking these actions also, because this is crazy and it needs to stop.
The most disturbing part of those hearings is a girl saying, so I objected to a dude being in our locker room while we were all changing. The school solution, you need to go to counseling. How about counseling for the dude that thinks he's a chick?
Congresswoman, we appreciate you joining us live here on the program. Obviously, a lot of attention. About a year ago, you were on the ballot for the U.S. Senate race, and you lost a primary. A lot of attention right now in about a year, an August GOP primary for governor. 3 main candidates in no particular order here, Mr. Kehoe, Mr. Ashcroft, Senator Eichel, in no particular order. Have any of those 3 reached out to you, A, and B, D, have you endorsed any of the 3 for governor yet?
Well, one of them has, and I look forward to visiting with all of them. I have not endorsed, and I going to obviously be watching this very closely. We have some great candidates. I mean, those are wonderful men, wonderful public servants who are leaders, who have done great jobs in their current roles, and so we'll see how it plays out. But the voters are going to have some very fine people to choose from next August.
Former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler joins us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Congressman, your many years with the House Armed Services Committee, you were right in the battle for the funding for the new B-21 stealth bomber and upgrades for the B-2s at Whiteman and all. The whistleblowers and the UFOs. Did you watch those hearings, and what's your take on all of that?
Boy, that was fascinating. I didn't watch all the hearings. I watched a lot of the different clips and read some information about what they shared. And these are credible people. I mean, people from the Air Force who've been over 14 years in military intelligence coming forward and making these claims. So it's not just somebody with a theory, but yet they didn't produce any concrete evidence, but of course it wasn't a classified hearing. So I don't know, what's going to come of it. Obviously the DOD is still, denying these things. So I guess it's something that we'll just have to continue to watch. But, it's certainly fascinating. But I think most importantly, we need to keep our eye on the ball as far as our real threat, and that's China. And I'm so proud of the House Republicans who are setting up this House Joint Committee, this select committee on the the Chinese Communist Party and what they're doing to our country and taking action on it. And this is a bipartisan effort. It's been very encouraging to see the Democrats right there with the Republicans recognizing this is a threat and we need to take steps. And in the NDAA that just passed, I was just reading the list of all of the things that they put in there to try to counter the threat from China. And I'm really proud of Mark Alford and the others on those committees who are working to keep us safe, because it is still a very, very serious situation that we have on the national security front. I'm still watching this very closely and still very concerned.
Former Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, he's joining us a little bit after 8 o'clock, about 8:10. Jay Nixon is here. He's now involved with the group No Labels, and one of the questions we're going to ask him, is there anything that he misses about being governor? He's like, man, I'm glad I'm out of there. So final question for you, Miss Hartzler. Are you missing the madness in D.C.? Are there times you're like, thank goodness I'm not there anymore?
Well, there certainly are some tough times, and you watch it and you're like, well, I'm glad in some ways I don't have to be, worrying with that. But then on the other hand, I miss the people of the 4th District, the opportunity to serve and them and, fight for them. So there's certainly aspects that I miss, but I'm, still here at home and get out and about, and I'm still able to see people and making a difference in my local community. And so, yeah, it's a mixed thing, but I feel good about having Mark there. He's doing a good job, as well as our other representatives and senators, and I think things are going well. And I pray for him here, and we'll continue to advocate for good things for the people I care about here in Missouri.
Oftentimes, after Alford's appearance here on the show, we get texts from listeners like, yeah, I like what he's doing. Former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Wanted to ask about ag stuff. We know you're heavily involved with the agriculture industry, personally and professionally and politically over the years, but we've run out of time, but maybe next time. And I got to tell you, we're very appreciative you would take time out of your day of farming to join us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, I always enjoy visiting with you all. Thanks for what you do.
All right. Well, thank you. We'll look forward to having you on again. Coming up, we're going to be doing something we just started yesterday. Hannah, what was your verdict on this? I thought it was really, really good, actually. I thought John did
You sound surprised.
I know. I'm sorry. It's called...
It makes two of us.
John's like, whoa, look at what I did. That wasn't too shabby. But it's called And That Would Be All with John Marsh. What are you going to be featuring in this coming up 5 minutes from now?
Well, channeling my buddy, retired science teacher, always accused us of sounding like 14-year-old boys on the radio. We'll keep it on the down low and stay with the place we went yesterday with things that just don't smell too good.
And the #1 story in the Wall Street Journal. What is that?
closing 62 points lower.
How are futures looking today? We're going to cover that at 8:25 in the Morning Bell. Business news, little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
This super big business is expanding into mid-Missouri with some extra services.
And I didn't know they did this service.
Do you want that service from them?
I don't know about that. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
And that would be all, except for this.
What do you think, Steph? Tried this on the Wake Up Mid-Missouri family for the first time yesterday.
I like it.
Marsh, what did you think?
They're still here today.
I dig the music, kind of. Hannah, verdict?
I like it.
All right. And that would be all. What do you have for us today?
Well, coming in on the backside, no pun intended, of our story yesterday about public flatulence at a Robert F. Kennedy Jr. campaign event, we move now to the stinkiest place in the STL in St. Louis.
The brewery.
You're very close.
In the summer, growing up, South St. Louis, man, certain nights in August, right about this time of year, you'd smell the hops and the stuff. It smelled like money, but it still stank.
Well, we take you a little closer to Forest Park. How's that sound? Visitors at the Missouri Botanical Garden are witnessing the rare blooming of the spectacular corpse flower.
Oh, I've heard of these.
Yep, the 8-foot-tall plant named Olivia began opening her leaves Sunday afternoon, exposing its tall spike of small flowers, a native of Indonesia, and derives its name by giving off the stink of rotting flesh.
And the remarkable part, people line up for hours. Hours.
What is it about mankind that if we eat something nasty or smell something gross, we have to share with our friends? Like, oh my gosh, this was terrible. Try it.
We talked to the plant biologist at the Botanical Garden. He describes it as if you took a bag of your teenager's dirty laundry, dumped it into a big black garbage bag, then you added some raw hamburger meat, maybe some couple-week-old fish, a little garlic, and some Parmesan cheese, and left it by the side of the road on a hot St. Louis day for about 24 hours, and then you came back to it. That is what the smell would be described as.
We apologize if anyone was currently eating breakfast. Blech.
Or you had to wash your teenager's socks or something. They say it's because insects like the smell of rotting flesh or other rotting odors, and they can come and pollinate the plants.
I take offense at the name. Olivia is like such a pretty name. That's the name of this flower. It needs a meaner...
Kind of like a little shop of horrors, isn't it, kind of?
There's probably like an 8-year-old Olivia, and she's going to like some kind of summer camp with Grandma right now. And she's like, Grandma, corpse flower. It's the same name as me. But the refrigerator, how many... You get in the refrigerator, you know, in a big family, 5 people at your house there in Ashland. You get something in the fridge, and what do? Like, oh, how is that? And you,
no,
that stinks. Honey, smell this. It's horrible. That's what we do.
Chris did that to me once, only it was with food. He was like, you got to try that. It was like hors d'oeuvres. They were being passed, and I grabbed it, put it in my mouth, and I was like, huh, and I was like, wow. And he's like, I didn't say, I said, you told me to try it. He said, I did. He said, I didn't say it was good. And I was like, rude.
Girl.
Coming up a little bit after 8 o'clock, former Missouri Governor Jay
Oh, he was on the board of that company. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters. I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
So I'd like to say we know now those were lies, but we knew when he said that those were all lies then. We knew it then. Just now, we have the proof. And what is startling is you're talking about the guy who right now, he's the president of the United States. Everything he does affects every single one of us right now. The guy, it looks like, was selling his name for financial gain, political influence. I didn't know my son was doing this, and we know now those were lies, and even our texters are talking about this.
Well, and we've gotten some flack this morning, said, hey, y'all are talking about the Trump indictment, and not enough people are talking about Hunter Biden. We've been talking about Hunter Biden, but it's true. I mean, and Brandon, you said, you put on your tinfoil hat and you said the timing is awfully suspicious, but they had that big hearing this week with the testimony of Devin Archer. And guess what we're talking about today? The Trump indictment. The timing, I think the texter's right. The timing is awfully suspicious. And even us, we're talking a little bit more about Trump than we are Hunter Biden this morning.
Well, you have a former president of the United States of America who has again been indicted for a huge,
you name it.
Yeah, a huge moment in U.S. history as it relates to January the 6th. And you have a former president who, again, is indicted. Kind of a big deal. Current president who, when he was vice president, selling the family name to the tune of millions of dollars, that's kind of a big deal, too. Good morning. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Coming up 8:25, Morning Bell. Big business expanding in Mid-Missouri. And if you want to be a business tycoon, what are the titans of business read? What's the number one publication, probably?
They read the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. If you want to be a titan of business, you got to read the Wall Street Journal. What's the number one story on the Wall Street Journal this morning?
I feel like the Wall Street Journal's tattling on people this morning.
That's coming up at 8:25. And then 8:35, we are talking armadillos and Missouri Democrats. Don't miss that. That's at 8:35. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Halsworth is here.
It's good to see you.
There's
Good morning,
Marsh.
everyone.
Here, sir.
Producer Hannah is here.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert. Want to welcome into the show right now former governor of Missouri, Jay Nixon, who's now involved with a group that we've had on the show. The group is called No Labels, and it's a collection of folks from both sides. We assume there's only two sides of the political aisle, and I think that's wrong. But anyhow, both sides of the political aisle saying, listen, we don't want, you've got Democrats saying, we don't want Joe as president. You have Republicans saying, we don't want Donald as president. That's what they're doing. And now our former governor, Jay Nixon, is involved. We welcome him into Wake Up Mid-Missouri right now. So why are you getting involved with this?
Because groups have been formed that are making it more difficult for No Labels to do what they have constitutional right and state statutory right to do, which is qualify people for ballots. We have a lot of experience of that here in Missouri, and I consider that a pillar of democracy. And when I saw and have seen the efforts to keep them off the ballot, whether you agree or disagree with them, making sure that we are protecting the right of citizens, both constitutionally as well as statutorily, to do this, I think is vital at this time in our democracy, especially when things don't appear to be getting along all that well in D.C.
Democrats are really upset with this. Now, you're a Democrat. Why are you involved with this?
I think the pillar of democracy of having the citizens' rights exceeds a party's right. I think that, especially in a state like Missouri, I served the vast majority of my time as governor with 2/3 of the opposite party in the House and the Senate. We got a lot done. You go get one of those F-150s built in the largest Ford plant in the world that we were able to get done through there in a special session. I can go on and on and on. It can work. The point I make is when we see Washington broken and people have given up on it, I haven't given up on it. But having the potential for a third party in this situation, I think helps add to the positive pressure that can get our country moving forward again. We used to say that when people will say to you, wow, you guys can't agree when you're talking about me dealing with the Republicans or the Democrats, whoever, you can't agree. I say time and again, the most important thing in democracy is to have people in elective office have an ability to disagree and still work forward. And right now, that's just not happening nationally. And I think that assuming that this goes forward, that this will provide an option for voters to look at potentially a different path.
Our former governor, Jay Nixon, joining us this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, Governor, you're kind of giving some of us some Ross Perot flashbacks. I guess the question is, if you're getting involved with this because you don't like what the Democrats are doing and you don't want Joe Biden to be the president, why don't you want him to be the president?
Well, first of all, I'm not on that at this time. We're in the process, no labels, attempting to get on the ballots. And that's the area where I am focusing my time. I'm practicing law. I'm teaching law at Washington Law School. I'm hiking and doing a bunch of stuff. I'm not the normal politician here. This is a situation in which I think these are important pillars. I think it is important, vitally important for the citizens to have the right to petition their government in various ways. This year, for example, I thought in Missouri, I did not think the legislature it would have been good policy for the legislature to make it more difficult to amend the Constitution. My God, with the numbers they were talking about, you wouldn't even have had the Hancock Amendment. We wouldn't have had Medicaid expansion, perhaps. You wouldn't have had a minimum wage. You wouldn't have had a number of things. I think these citizen actions, when the government's elected officials aren't getting the job done, taking power away from the people, is basically the worst thing you can do in a democracy. And that's the reason I'm involved here.
Governor, we appreciate you joining us here on the program. How optimistic are you, Governor, in terms of the no labels group position, if you will, getting on the ballot, if not most, all of the 50 states?
I think it's the kind of organization that has a capacity to succeed on the project. Let's just put it that way. I've been impressed by the professionalism and by the focus on these nuts and bolts initial issues that are vital in any democracy, and so I've been impressed. We'll see as this plays out, but they have also said that they don't want to. They're not in this to be a spoiler. They're not in this and so I think there's a lot of things to be played out over the next 6 to 8 months. But I didn't want that to be played out in a context of people think that they were exerting their political position or political right by limiting the constitutional and statutory power of their fellow citizens. I don't think that's what even the opponents here are comfortable with, but that's what will happen unless we're able to slow this down.
Would you say that some of your political, I don't want to say allegiances, but your political mindset, have you evolved a little bit maybe?
Well, I don't think Democrats are the only ones fighting no labels, first of all, and I don't think it's completely fair to just say Democrats are out there doing it. I know they've been on the point here recently, and I don't mean to in any way, shape, or form say that what you're saying is not based on things that you have read. And what's the second question was what?
Are you politically evolving from where you were in 2017, your last day in office?
No, not really, no. Okay. I was always somebody who was much more interested in the policy, much more interested in getting things done. When you're governor of a state and people walk up to you and they stick their hands out and they say, well, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, either one, they're getting ready to tell you what they can't do, generally, not what they can do. And in Missouri, where I served almost the entirety time of governor with 2/3 of the opposite party in both the House and the Senate, I think I have unique experience at getting things done in this area and know it can work. I mean, both parties can work together. They can disagree on things and have hot conversations and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, we balanced budgets. We made the right investments. We had to make some extremely difficult decisions when I first became governor when the money wasn't coming in because of the recession. I ended up with over 5,000 fewer employees in the state of Missouri at the end of my time. Our credit rating stayed the same, and we were able to retire debt even during that time period. That wouldn't have been possible if we weren't able to work across the aisle and work with legislative leaders and others who were of the opposite party, who understood the seriousness of the situation we're in. And because we respected each other and worked with each other, even with disagreements, we could then move to the next topic in a discussion. It didn't turn everybody into tweeting and saying bad things about the other person.
All right, winding down our time with former Governor Jay Nixon, now involved with no labels. And I want to say, I want to get your thoughts on this because obviously our audience, I'm guessing right now, Mr. Nixon, they're having a conniption fit at hearing the former Democrat governor here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, but that's one of the things we do. We have everybody on. But this idea that, and it's Republicans, Democrats. Republicans, if you ain't Republican hard enough, you're called a rhino. And Democrats have their thing. But why this distaste to work together and compromise on things? I feel it hard on the conservative side. I feel it hard on the progressive side. Why do you think that is? Your point of view. Why is it so distasteful to even sometimes compromise and say, okay, we're not getting everything that we want, but we're getting some things and you're getting some things? Why is it so bad?
That's a very good question, and it's a complicated, long answer because we haven't gotten here in one day. But we are here now, and No Labels provides the best avenue to move forward, to shift and change where we are. Otherwise, it would appear we'd have another 4 or 5 years of this. And it's why has it gotten there? There's a whole myriad of reasons, but this party purity mentality. I mean, people putting party before the state didn't happen that often in Missouri for me. Sometimes for some folks, but generally folks were willing to get to work and do it. And that disease that's in Washington now, where people put party before policy, party before the people, that's dangerous for our democracy. And when anyone talks about the way to deal with this is to undermine one of those pillars of democracy, the ability of citizens on their own signature, on our own effort to put people on the ballot, to put constitutional amendments on the ballot, to put things out there for the public to vote on, that is not going to solve the problem. That would make the problem worse by taking power away from people. And it would also dramatically increase what is already a very cynical electorate. We need to get people working together and thinking about the great things America can do instead of gaming out how they can mess with their opponents, whether they're from the far left or the far right. And I do think that I have a pretty unique history of taking hits both sides, but still keeping moving forward. And that's what we got to do here.
Is there anything you miss about being governor?
When I spoke as governor, I wasn't just speaking for the Democrats or the Republicans or the people that voted for me or voted against me. I was speaking on behalf of everyone.
Final question. When was the last time you said, and since 2017, when was the last time you said, whew, I'm glad I'm not governor today?
This weather stuff, I can only, any time of day. There was a time when I was governor, which on the same day I signed an emergency declaration for a flood and a drought. The same day, different parts of the state.
Former Missouri Governor Jay Nixon this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, now with No Labels, nolabels.org. They're looking for alternatives to a Democrat and a Republican. I think worth checking out. Mr. Nixon, we are appreciative of your time this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Thanks, guys.
One of the things I do find interesting, by the way, you'll be able to, if you missed some of that, former Democrat Governor Jay Nixon this morning on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you'll be able to go back, check out the podcast, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, on demand, anytime, all the time. Go to the websites, 939theeagle.com, kwos.com. You play that back, maybe send it out to you. Did you hear Jay Nixon was on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning? But it seems like we all complain about how nasty politics is anymore. And it's this party and that party and it's teams, and we get too emotionally tied in because we root for our guy. Even when our guy is wrong, we root for him because it's our team, right? It's like Mark McGuire when he was allegedly doing steroids. We don't care. He's still our guy. Maybe me personally, I should have said, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. I think that's what we do with politics. But we complain about how nasty it is. And so here's a group, I think, may not agree with me. I think trying to do something like, okay, so what can we do?
Or are they just meddling to ultimately get their way anyway? I'm not assigning them any sort of positive connotation.
Election interference 2024. Coming up, Morning Bell Business News. Little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Well, there's one story on the Wall Street Journal homepage that's beating the Trump indictment story, and you're going to be pretty surprised at what that is.
If you want to be a titan of business, what do they read?
The Wall Street Journal.
What's the number one Business news with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
Of course, yesterday, big financial news. Fitch downgraded the U.S.'s long-term debt ratings, and that is appearing to show up. Now, I'm no expert on the stock market, but appearing to show up in the futures. They are down quite significantly this morning. Dow is down 0.5%, NASDAQ almost a full percent as the market is set to open. So, big financial news yesterday, but some other. So I would expect that Fitch story to be number one on the Wall Street Journal about our debt rating.
It's impactful. Interest rates could likely go up, including mortgage rates, so it would affect everybody. Wall Street Journal, titans of industry read Wall Street Journal.
They do, and so it is now on number 5. It's moving a little bit on the most popular news, and the Trump indictment has been sitting at number 2 all day, and I'm thinking, what yesterday happened that is more important that all of the folks, in suits in the business world are reading?
Number one story, Wall Street Journal. So you got the Trump indictment stuff, you've got the Hunter Biden stuff, the Joe Biden stuff. Number one story of Wall Street Journal.
Put this on your vacation to-do list. This? Great sex.
Really?
Number one article on the Wall Street Journal that people are tuned into today. And I'm thinking, so a little bit behind the scenes for the show, I like to go see what the most popular articles are on the Wall Street Journal when I'm doing this, getting ready for the morning bell. I did not expect this. Hannah, you're laughing. It's kind of tattling on our business execs, right?
Well, that's why it just seems like a weird story to be on the Wall Street Journal.
And it's their number one most popular story, which means it's the one people are clicking on. They're getting into work, and rather than reading about the Trump indictment or the downgrade in our
Screw the kids' college future. I'm not looking at the stock market right now.
Exposed.
What's the thing? So all you have to do is just write it down on your list? Is that the secret, John? It's just put this on your. Oh, yeah, honey. So we're going to go see the Grand Canyon. We're going to go eat at this steakhouse outside of the Grand Canyon that serves incredible buffalo steak. And
do the nasty.
They provide some advice.
It's Friday, so midnight Thursday, going into Friday morning, it starts, but it always be, and you had people like, Cole and Boone and counties and cities that say, yeah, but we're still getting our local money, man. Legislature said, no, you're not going to do that anymore first year. I don't know if it'll make a difference to people, but that young lady there, her name is Kyra Thomas, manager at the Tin Roof, chatting with KOMU. It's a local business, and hopefully this will help local businesses. I know we like to go to the big box retailers, back to school stuff, but there are some local businesses, and we're big on shopping local and investing your money local. I don't know if you can find. Would shoes from Dryers Shoes in downtown Columbia, is that considered a back to school item? It's a clothing item. I wonder how that would work.
Sure it is.
Yeah. Local. What about Vogel Insurance? Cole County. If I go to Vogel Insurance, I don't know if I can get back to school stuff, but local company. People like Missouri Vein Care, we appreciate local businesses. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Here's producer Hannah.
Hello.
Marsh is here.
Yes, indeed.
My name is Branden. Coming up before Gary Nolan shows some leftovers, I want to highlight a story. I love how some of our counties, our local counties, they do the mug shots. I've had mug shots before, and I'm not saying to be proud. I'm saying I used to behave that way. I don't anymore. I've changed my life. You can, too. If you need to know how to do it, let me know. I'll help you out. But they make you hold your own. So when you get arrested, they make you hold your own thing. And it's not even like the fancy digital ones. It's like it's a whiteboard like we're using right now. And there's your name and your number. But there's a local mug shot. Apparently, this woman got busted at work. And went and did the mug shot and still had the work shirt on. And I'm wondering how the workplace feels about that.
Ooh.
Yeah,
well, isn't it like a running joke in the radio business? Like you don't want anybody to get arrested wearing one of your station T-shirts?
Or one of the things that was explained to me back in the day was the opposite. It was like, if you get arrested, that's fine. Just make sure you're wearing the T-shirt and they can see the call letters because any press is good press. We were going to talk about armadillos. And Missouri Democrats here. Missouri Democrats actually making national headlines this morning. Shame on Missouri Democrats.
National headlines. I think they were retweeted by Don Jr. They also it was on Fox News, I think, and Newsweek. So yesterday, somebody tweeted out, "Hey, what would you do if this was your next door neighbor?" And it showed a house that was just completely covered in Trump flags. Now, I will remind you that my neighbor had a giant Claire McCaskill sign, like a one of those ones you see on the side of the highway, in like on her house, and
like a welcome home kind of thing.
And what did I do? I laughed every day once she lost. It was actually quite nice.
Did you go and throw stuff?
It was a good reminder. I did not.
Did you take the sign down?
I did not. But
did you
Missouri
threaten them?
No. But Missouri Democrats have an idea. So they retweeted this. What would you do if this was your neighbor, the Trump house? And they said, the roof is on, and a fire emoji. We don't need no water. Let the blank burn. And that was from their official account. And so Donald Trump Jr. retweets it, says, no big deal. Just the official account of the Missouri Democrat Party openly calling to burn down the homes of Trump supporters. They have since deleted that tweet.
It's one intelligent thing that Missouri Democrats have done.
I don't know. I almost think it's worse.
What, that they deleted it?
Yeah. It's like if something controversial gets deleted, it's that person going, oh, yeah, like I did mess up. I feel like if you're going to put it out there, you may as well own it.
You should, but that speaks to the principles of Democrats. Hannah's right, and I agree 100%. It's like Ron DeSantis told Kamala Harris, hey, listen, you disagree with what this board created for this curriculum as it relates to slavery? Let's debate it. Kamala's, no, I'm not going to. Well, if you're making these statements, why don't you go and back them up? So I agree.
Well, and the hypocrisy. Right now, all they can talk about is January 6th and how violent Republicans are. And yet here they're saying basically if you show open support for Trump, that your house should be burned down, that you should, endure injury. That just awful. Yeah, so it's been deleted. It's obviously people screenshotted it. It's made national headlines. But why is it when Missouri always ends up in the national news, it's always the Democrats doing something stupid?
Yeah, thanks for helping us out. And by the way, if one of your local reps is a Democrat, call their office and say, hey, man, were you part of that? Just ask them. And you have that right. Even if you did not vote for them, you have your rep. In Jefferson City, you have that right to call and ask them. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri, 8:25. We're doing Morning Bell business news, a little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you. Man, if you're a leader in the business industry, I'll bet there's a 99% chance that you are reading the Wall Street Journal. Stephanie's a regular reader Interesting. Top 5 stories. Number 5.
Especially this week.
Number 5 on the list earlier this morning.
Right now, Fitch downgrades U.S. credit rating.
Pretty important story. It's number 5.
4, why America's gun laws are in chaos.
It's because people like Joe Biden is all about gun laws and strict sentencing and all that. And then his son gets in trouble for being a felon in possession of a gun. And then all of a sudden, he's not a big fan of strict sentencing. That's why there's issues with gun laws.
3 is Miami sees its first population drop in decades. Important maybe if you're in business, why cities are shrinking and so forth. 2, Trump indicted.
Okay.
Number 1, put great sex on your vacation to-do list.
Wall Street Journal. So all these folks are getting on the Wall Street Journal, Marsh, and they go, Trump and Fitch, the downgrade, stock market.
Click.
Sex on vacation. I'm in. It's August, man. I'm ready. I got time to burn before we get into September. I got time to burn.
I feel like the Wall Street Journal is tattling on people this morning by showing this. What's the most popular?
Like, yes, I see what you guys are looking at.
But they have tips. They say, so they go through this thing. They said, here's some advice.
Wait, hold up. Like,
is the article just the tips, or is there more analysis in there?
The tips, is it like technique and skill?
No.
While you're on the vacation?
That's like the wrong magazine.
Perhaps?
Try this with your left hand.
No, my gosh. They did use a new word that I'd never heard before.
What kind of tips is it?
They said staycations count, that you can find a place close to home and you can call it a laycation. That's in the Wall Street Journal.
By the way,
no, they said, okay, so legitimately, they said if you're not getting enough time, you can schedule regular vacations, talk about expectations, don't overplan, be adventurous. Those are tips from the Wall Street Journal.
I feel like planning it, though, doesn't that kind of ruin
it takes away the adventurous part.
Yeah, like the spontaneity.
You should ask Nancy Mace about that.
Nancy Mace.
She had a prayer breakfast to get to.
Wow. And if we would have told you this story, I don't know that anybody would have believed us, because I think Nancy Mace, she gets a lot of respect. I think she garnered a lot of respect. She says, I don't need Trump's endorsement. And she won her race in South Carolina. She said this.
Now her fiance is getting a lot of respect.
And when I woke up this morning at 7, I was getting picked up at 7:45. Patrick, my fiance, tried to pull me by my waist over this morning in bed. And I was like, no, baby, we don't got time for that this morning. I got to get to the prayer breakfast. And I got to be on time. And a little TMI. But he can wait. I'll see him later tonight.
We're going on vacation.
There you go.
But you know what? I wonder, and I get it. And these are things, by the way, as we get towards the end of August, when all of our kids, in Randolph, Audrain, and Montauk County, and they start going back to school, and we might temper kind of what we talk about and when we talk about, because
probably not very much, though.
We probably won't. I agree. But you know what? Think about this, though. Nancy Mace being open and honest about it. And she wasn't graphic. She says, hey, my fiance, wanted to get frisky, whatever word you want to put on it. Wall Street Journal, #1 story. Titans of industry getting on to Wall Street Journal first thing in the morning. Cup of coffee, not looking at the stock market, not looking at the Trump indictment, not looking at the Fitch downgrading our credit rating. They're like, sex on vacation? But maybe it's one of the, and I don't understand why I don't know if taboo is the word, but it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Maybe because it is such an intimate and personal thing. Especially when there's more than one person.
What's next for bumper music? Will Smith and Getting Jiggy with it, huh?
We could do that. It might take a minute, but we could.
That's what she said.
But so that kind of bumped my other real story, though. Amazon did announce, I do want to put a plug in here, that they are doing like telehealth. And we knew this before, but they had rolled it out in certain places. And it's being reported that, they can do like tele and video health visits or whatever. And it's coming to mid-Missouri. In Missouri in general, we talk a lot about rural health care and some issues in access. And I think that's interesting. Don't you? I think it's good. It's probably good news for folks who, we're lucky right here in the heart of mid-Missouri that we got lots of access to really quality and excellent healthcare. But if you're in some of those further away places, I could see where a telehealth visit, might be helpful.
You ever done the telehealth thing? I know a lot of people have tried it. I get to where And I get it. And Hannah properly calls me out on this a lot. I get leery about trying new things. I'm like, if I'm going to the doctor, I don't want to go do the doctor.
No. Hard to believe.
I don't want to see a doctor on video. I want him to go and see and look at this rash on my arm. I want you to see it, not just through the computer. I get weird like that.
Yeah, I've had mixed results with telehealth.
So you've done telehealth. Tell us about the mixed results.
Well, I had a sinus infection, which I get every so often for decades. And the standard thing was, big doses of Cephalexin, the antibiotic. And the telehealth people said, no, we don't prescribe that anymore. And I said, well, what should I do with the sinus infection? They said, you could get a neti pot. And I said, yeah.
Those are the worst.
See you later. That was pretty much the end of that experience.
Well, and I wish it would be easier. Like, I would like to call my, hey, doctor, listen, I got a cold. Can you give me just something and something so I can come and talk here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, some kind of cough syrup, some kind of antibiotic. That's all I need. I don't need to come and take time out of my day to make an appointment and come see you and then see the nurse and sit there and wait for another 10 minutes and then wait for you and another 10 minutes to say, yeah, you got a cold. I know, just let me do that.
Well, and I think where it really comes in handy, and I've heard from other moms, and I need to get signed up for this program that I've heard about is with kids, because if you're a working parent, get in. I got 3 of them and they're just like germ magnets, especially when they're little and they go to school. You can, my kids have been sick enough where I'm like, I'm going to lose my job. I can't be home for a week with the flu and then go to the doctor the next week with the next kid and all that.
Aren't you self-employed?
I am. This was before. But you can spend a lot of time at the doctor for things like ear infections and a cough and this and that, or hand, foot, and mouth. And so I can really see something like that benefiting, working parents who really, can't afford the time off to go to the doctor every week.
So while we're talking about sicknesses and snot and flu and intimacy and slaycations and things like that, we do have some leftovers. I don't know what we haven't covered this morning, but apparently there's some stuff. One story, a local mugshot. It's all coming up. Leftovers 5 minutes from now, and then it's the Gary Nolan Show.
leftovers. Enjoy.
Little different for leftovers. I want to go back to something we've already have eaten, but we're going to regurgitate it because this happened earlier this morning. Former Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler is here. We got to, I don't know how the heck how did we get to armadillos? Oh, we got talking about the number of dead armadillos that I see up and down 63 and highways 50 and 54, sometimes even 70. And it occurred to me, and then we were covering this last night. I was chatting with some folks. Chief Jeff Jones, former outgoing Chief Columbia Police Department, his retirement party last night, was chatting with some folks, and we were talking about armadillos, and we thought, I don't know that I've ever seen a live armadillo. That's how we got onto armadillos and why we had the former Congresswoman on the show, Brian Houseworth. This is one of the reasons we love him.
Never seen a live
What's
armadillo.
that sound like exactly?
Oh, terrible. Can you give us an idea?
It sounded like artillery shells were being fired off under my car.
Oh.
I woke everybody up at the Capitol Plaza Hotel in Jefferson City when I hit that thing. It was in 2020. National Guard was staying.
So that was this morning, Brian
He's
Houseworth.
so serious.
That's dramatic.
Play-by-play of the morning he hit an armadillo, and it sounded like artillery shells.
Well, he does have a very small car. I can imagine.
And then we got a lot of text people, some folks, they're saying, oh, I've seen a live armadillo. Leftovers, what you got, John?
This is for firefighter Al, who texted us and asked on our story about 45-year-old Johnny Johnson, put to death, state prison in Bonne Terre, convicted of killing a little girl back in 2002. Okay, for firefighter Al, on Tuesday morning, Johnson met with family members, served a last meal of a bacon cheeseburger, curly fries, and a strawberry milkshake.
What do you got for leftovers, Steph?
Taco Bell is getting sued. They've been getting sued a lot lately, I think. But apparently, Frank Suragasa of New York is really mad that the Mexican pizza doesn't look exactly like the photos in the commercials. And I think now I have to sue some makeup companies because I have yet to look like a Kardashian when I'm putting on their makeup products. But he is mad because the Mexican pizza had half of the beef and bean filling than he expected.
Several years, I can't remember who it was. I thought it was a chicken fast food restaurant, had a new dish or a new sandwich or something. It was one of those like buttermilk chicken sandwiches. And so I went and I tried it out and did the comparison. Here's what I got. Here's what the picture said. But we know this now, right?
Right. It's like when you order something, what's the Wish? You know, there were memes for a really long time, like what I ordered and what I got. And I feel like the commercial, like you could do that with fast food. Like it does not look like the pictures.
My favoriteest version of that joke is you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about.
Right. Right.
Also in leftovers, I'm fascinated by the way some of our local counties do mug shots. You know, you hold up your own thing. I don't know why.
Have you done extensive research on this?
Well, every time I see these stories, whether it's KRCG or KOMU or ABC 17, and they show the mug shots, somebody getting busted for something, I'm like, man, I wonder if they made you write out your name and all that stuff on there.
It's not a glamour shot.
It's not a glamour shot. A woman in Boonville, she was arrested, and they went to her place of employment and got her. She's in the service industry. And they wear a T-shirt at this place where it's a gas station convenience store. They arrested her there, and then when she went and then they took her to the jail and said, here, hold up your thing, she's still wearing her place of employment shirt, and it says it right there.
Brutal.
Yeah, that's and I'm wondering how they're feeling.
Why wouldn't they just give them like a white T-shirt? We should propose that.
I mean, if you go to jail and you're naked, they give you like that little cape thingy.
How do you know?
You've never seen the mug shots where they're like wearing a barbershop cape?
Have you done extensive research on this?
I haven't.
Okay. Coming up, you are in for a real treat. It's my dad's favorite show. Gary Nolan's show is coming up just a few minutes from now. Maybe tomorrow we'll get back into the number of people that have actually seen armadillo. Have you seen a live armadillo?
I don't think so.
What are you trying to get at? Are you...
There is a whole website dedicated to birds. What is it? Birds aren't real?
Yeah, they're like government spies.
Armadillos, too, apparently.
Tinfoil hat is on. Armadillosain'treal.com. If you want in on this website action, call Stephanie Bell. Call her on her personal phone number.
No. No.
Are you proposing that people dump dead armadillos on the side of the road?
Nolan's next. See ya.
Bye.